is going on in .NET. Fine. Normally, if you take any type of programming, right? So we have two different ways of programming. We have an application programming, right? And then we have something called system programming. Now, what is the difference between your application programming and system programming? Now, whenever we say application programming, this is something which needs a platform to run on. And your system programming is something which is a program which talks directly to a hardware. Like let's take an example of operating system. Your operating system is a system program. Now, which have capability to actually talk to hardware directly. That is something which is a system program. And on top of this, whatever program which talks to operating system and then tries to execute is nothing but an application programming. And your .NET is an application type of programming. You will not be able to create any type of system program using .NET. We need a platform which is an operating system and a framework in order to run any .NET program. Which means we are going to learn mostly on an application program, not a hardware based or a system program. Fine. So this is something which is which we all should know what exactly we are going to do using .NET, which is an application programming platform. Now we would have you guys would have came across two different things, which is a platform and an environment. So what is the difference between the platform and environment? We normally say .NET is a programming platform where you can actually write .NET programs which can write. Same way Java. Take an example of Java. Java have got its own platform called JDK and all. Right? Take an example of Android. It got a DBX and all. Right? DBM and all. So these different things. Whenever we talk about a platform and an environment, right? Theoretically, we feel that both are same. But it is very important to understand what exactly is a platform and what exactly is an environment. Environment, or we normally say a framework. Fine. So when it comes to platform is something which supports you to execute your program. Now let's take an example of a .NET. We say we have got something called .NET framework, a .NET platform, on top of which you can actually execute your program. Whenever you say execution of program, if your program has to run, you need a support of .NET platform. Now take an example of Microsoft Word. If you want to run Microsoft Word, you have to have a Windows operating system in your machine, right? Right. If you don't have any operating system, and if you want to open up your Microsoft Word, will it work? It will not work. It needs some operating system to start. Same way, in order to run your .NET program, you have to have a platform. We normally call it as a .NET platform. So platform is nothing but a area which you can use to run your program. That is something which is called as a platform. Now what is the environment? Now environment is nothing but it is something which provides you the features which are where you are actually using in your program. Let's say when it comes to .NET, right? Take an example of .NET. You can run .NET program only on your Windows machine. Let's say. When it comes to your Java, you can actually run Java on any platform. That's what we say. Now, why do we say we can run Java on any platform? Because, so normally let's take an example of this. When we actually take an example of C or C++, right? Now, how does it work? So C or C++, whenever you write any program, right, and when you try to run, let's say you are using a Windows machine, Windows operating system, right? So C or C++, in order to run, it needs something called a compiler, right? So this compiler is inbuilt in Windows machine. Now, in the same way, if you are running any program on a Linux machine, so Linux machine will have its own compiler to run C and C++ program. Now you can see that your compiler is an integrated part of your operating system, right? Which means if you create any program, C or C++ program, which will run on Windows machine, right, will not run on Linux machine because they have got their own native platforms or native compilers. So that's the reason why we normally call C or C++ is your platform dependent. Sometimes we also call operating system as a platform. Okay? When it comes to Java, you will understand why I'm actually taking an example of Java here. So let's take an example of Java. Java has got its own platform or a runtime called JDK, Java Development Kit, or normally JVM, let's say, Java Virtual Machine. And this Java JVM is something which will be deployed on, let's say, take an example of Windows. Right? Now, in order to run any program which is written on Java, you have to run it on JVM, because JVM supports to run or execute a Java program. Now, so JVM is compatible with Windows, which means you can install JVM on Windows. Same way you can install JVM on Linux. Now, so your JVM or JDK is being provided by a vendor. Now, Java is the Oracle's product, right? Now, which means whenever he releases Java, which means he'll be releasing a framework. Now, this framework will be exclusive for Windows and will be different for Linux, let's say. But as a JVM is common for a Java program, we will never feel that we are running on Windows or Linux, which means I can run my program which is written on Java on any platform, which is a Windows or a Linux. And which is, what is a key ingredient which is making it platform independent is nothing but your JVM. Now that's the reason why we normally call Java as a platform independent. Fine. Now let's come back to .NET. Now you have something called for .NET. Let's say you want to run a .NET program, right? So for this you have something called .NET Framework. Don't worry, we'll actually learn different things in .NET Framework and all, and we'll also see what are the different .NET frameworks we have, right? You have something called .NET Framework. We normally call it .NET FX, which is a framework. Now this is a framework for .NET. Now JVM or JDK is a framework for Java. Same way .NET FX, which is a .NET framework, is a platform, or it's a compiling platform for .NET. Now this framework can be installed on, let's say, Windows. But Microsoft doesn't give support to run your .NET program on Linux. That is the reason why we normally call .NET as a platform dependent program. Also, your .NET is independent. How? There is a very lighter support being provided by a .NET, where you have one .NET framework which you can actually install on Linux too. Now that is the reason why we normally call .NET as a major platform independent, but it is not completely platform independent. It can be made platform dependent, right? And that platform dependency is being created because of complete support of Windows and not Linux. Fine. So that is the reason why we normally call it as a platform dependent language. Now this is something where now you would have understood what is a platform. That is something which actually gives a execution area for any language, which is a platform. Now what is a framework? Now, whenever you talk about a framework, right? Framework is nothing but a set of libraries which we have. So when we talk about a framework, framework is nothing but a collection of libraries which can be classes or interfaces. Don't worry about each and every word. We'll be understanding each and every word like libraries, class, interfaces, and all in our upcoming classes. Then you'll actually understand what exactly we are talking about. Now here, whenever we say framework, right? Now, why do we need a framework? Now, framework is something which will give you a set of classes and interfaces, which are also called as libraries. It will give you predefined libraries which we can use to do some programming. Right? Now, how to use what are different libraries we have, we'll see. But your framework, .NET framework, will have a bundle of all libraries set. Now, this is the reason why whenever you actually install your .NET framework, right? Now, all the libraries will be actually, installed to your Microsoft Assembly for Microsoft Assembly, which is normally called as your assemblies folder, or it will be registered with your assemblies, all the libraries. Now, that's the reason why whenever you start coding on .NET, you can actually use this library easily. I'll show you how to use libraries and everything, right, as we move on. Now, this is something which is a platform and a framework, and that's the reason why we normally call .NET as a platform dependent. Fine. Now, this is about a platform and a framework, and what type of program is in .NET. Now, the next question is something which is .NET free? Now, this is something which is very important to understand. If you are going to be an enterprise developer, right, it's very important to understand this. When it comes to other languages like Java or C, C++, everything is free. Java is completely free. You can actually download any version of Java, and you have a multiple tools or environments or development environments to directly download from internet and start coding, and you can deploy anywhere you want. Only area where you have to pay for Java applications is the server maintenance only. But when it comes to Microsoft technologies, right, most of the things in Microsoft technologies are not free, right? So when we come to .NET here, now you have a .NET which is Express Edition. Now this is a very lighter edition which we have, right, which is free, right? And apart from this, whenever any enterprise edition or any other edition, we'll come to all the editions which we have in .NET, right? Other things are not free. Now, when it comes to framework, now is it free that I can download a framework, .NET framework and install? Yes, framework is completely free. Now, why it is free is .NET framework is something which is a core library of a core library which we can use to run a .NET application. Now, this is free because only with the framework you can do nothing until unless you code and do some application execution, right? Your framework will not be used. So that's the reason why your framework is distributed, distributed as a free source by Microsoft. Right? So that's why the .NET framework is completely free. Now, the next question is, how do I write .NET code? Or what do I use to write .NET code? I mean, where exactly I have to write code? Now, normally if you have any idea on C or C++, they have turbo editors, right? If you have already coded. C or C++, you can use Turbo or Turbo CPP, or you have editors on Eclipse CPP, right? You have editors on NetBeans CPP, right? You have editors. Even you can actually write it. You have a Microsoft product which is integrated to Visual Studio, where you can write C, C++. Now, in the current market, you have many editors, right? But normally, what happens if you don't have? I mean, when these languages didn't came, right? So editors were very minimal. When it comes to .NET, we have a editor called Visual Studio. Now this is called as a IDE, which is an integrated development environment. Now this is like a editor where you can actually write programs, which is a Visual Studio. And Visual Studio is a very powerful editor where you can write any type of .NET code. It can be a Windows-based application or a website you want to create, or a mobile-based application, right? Or any core libraries, or any console applications, or any MVC programs, or entity frame based applications, or WCFs, or Silverlight applications, everything. You can use a simple Visual Studio to program any type of .NET applications. Also, you can also use Visual Studio for non-.NET applications too. If you have a PHP application, you can use your .NET editor to actually, use Visual Studio and install a Visual Studio plugin for PHP, and you can start maintaining your PHP site using your .NET. Now, this extent, your .NET provides support to actually develop your applications. So that's the reason why your Visual Studio is also called as a RAD editor, which we normally call a rapid application development tool. It is something which is a rapid app development tool. Right? Using Visual Studio, if you have, you can actually develop any sort of application here. Now as we have latest Visual Studios, right? They are more powerful, anyways, right? When it comes to 2005 edition or 3 edition, there was some limitations to use. But in 2010 and 12 and the latest one, which is 2013 Visual Studio, they have actually empowered it, which supports even multi-application development in Visual Studio. We'll actually see how it works, and we are actually going to code on Visual Studio on daily basis. And you are going to practice on Visual Studio, and you are going to do some assignments on Visual Studio too, so that you can actually get used to it. Okay? So this is something which is editor which we'll be using. Now when I say editor, right, normally, now you can see this is my notepad where I'm actually writing, right? Now obviously this, if I don't have any notepad or Word or anything, right, I won't be able to write something so that I can actually show you, right? Which means I need some background to write on. Same way, right, whenever you're writing program, right, I can also write program in here. I mean, I can create a new file, right? I can actually start writing a program. But why do we need editor? We need editor to actually support us to write a program quickly, and whenever there are any issues in our program writing, right, it should actually support us to say that, man, you're right, you're actually doing something wrong, please correct it right away. I mean, editors will actually support you in that way. Fine? And for that we have Visual Studio. Now again, is Visual Studio free? Right, again. Normally, as I said, your Express edition is free. So you can actually, for our complete trainings, right, we can use Express edition for learning purpose. Express edition is more than enough, right? You can learn everything using Express edition, and this is completely free. You can actually download this from your Microsoft site. You can actually type in Express edition 2013 or so, and you can download the Express edition and install, right? So if you want the link, I can actually give you that link. Let me just show you where it's Express edition discussion. Fine. Okay. So that is about the editor which you can use. Now, so apart from Express edition, right, you have other editions, like you have Ultimate edition, right, or Premium, right, Premium edition. You have Professional, right. You have many other editions of .NET. Now these are for enterprise. Now these editions are licensed ones. Now you can't get it for free. You have to actually buy. I mean, when I say you, right, I mean in any firm, if you start working on it, they'll actually buy the editions, right, and they'll give you. So that's a completely licensed one. Now, why do we have these many editions? Will be a question. Why do we have Express edition? Why do we have Ultimate and all, right? Now the code base, I mean, the Visual Studio is only, a complete set is only one. But based on the package you select, let's say if I select Ultimate, right? Ultimate is something which contains everything. So they'll enable all type of projects, all type of services which Visual Studio can provide in Ultimate. So Akhila is asking, are there any additional features in Visual Studio 2013? One second. Compared to I mean, obviously 2013 supports 4.5.1 new framework. I'll give you which Visual Studio supports what and what are the new features it support based on the .NET framework. See, as .NET framework evolve, right? .NET framework, I'm talking about framework, right? In parallel, even your IDE, they actually improve the IDE support also, right? As for framework improved with different features, in parallel they actually improved Visual Studio, which is completely compatible with that framework, right? I'll give you a complete list of frameworks and the complete list of new latest framework which we are using, right? And which supports our Visual Studio, right? But that's fine. Don't worry about this. For our complete training, even if you are using 2010 or even 2008, right, will do. That will be more than enough for us, right? Because it supports everything, whatever we have to learn, right? There is no issues on that. So that is about different, versions or different packages of Visual Studios we have. Now again, keep in mind that whatever you are using, right, it can be premium or professional or ultimate, right? A code base of .NET Visual Studio will be same, but features will be enabled and disabled across your across different Visual Studio packages. Fine. So here from now on we'll be using a Visual Studio. So if you want to see the Visual Studio, now I have 2013. Once you install your Visual Studio, right, you'll actually see. Sorry, I have Visual Studio 2012. Now this is your Visual Studio which you have. Now 2010 and 10 or 12 and 13 will be same as 12, but we have a support of newer framework anyways, right? Now this is a Visual Studio which we have. But don't worry, we'll actually get into this when we actually start our C# .NET, right? Once we are done with .NET framework. So these are different things we have. Now let's go ahead and see what are the different versions we have. This is very important to learn, guys. Now, why do we have to worry about versions, right? Now, in any software world, right, as things evolve, right, and in market we have so many development languages like Java, PHP, you have Perl, you have .NET, you have Linux, right? Why is it important to have versions in mind? Or if you're not aware of versions, right, then it will be tough to actually work with a client. Now client, whenever you work for some client will have a complete faith on you. Now whenever you give any suggestions on usage of any framework, you should be aware that whatever features he is asking for, right, can be optimized and developed in that version of your .NET. Right? We should not actually give whatever .NET framework we know, we should not give in that way. That is the reason why it's very important to update our knowledge with the latest technologies, at least or latest vertical. If you are in a .NET vertical, at least you should know about what are different versions and everything, so that and what exactly are different features Microsoft enabled across different versions. This is very important. Fine. Now, so basically, even before .NET actually came up, right, we had something called VB. We normally call VB Visual Basic 6.0, right, which was a complete, a plain development environment without any OOPS support, right? It used to be there. It used to be in early 1999 or something. Now VB was used to develop Windows applications, and we had ASP, right, used to develop, which is used to develop web applications. Now they are completely, anyways, they are not prevailing in current market, because every product which was on VB or ASP got migrated to .NET anyways, right? Now during that time itself, Java was technology which was in boom, right? For both desktop-based applications or web applications or web services or any console applications or libraries, right? Anything, Java was a one. Now, so in that situation, right? Actually, Microsoft came up with the first version of .NET, which is version 1.0 on 2002. So this is the first year when the first version got released. And now even before that, right, in 2001, version 1.0's beta got released, but it was not that popular anyways. But actual version, which was 1.0, was released on 2002, and it was a big flop. Now, when I say flop, there were so many, as it is a first, initial version of .NET version, right? There were many features like memory leaks, like memory management on cleaning up the used objects, and there are so many things which went wrong. So that's the reason why immediately, they corrected everything and they released 1.1 version immediately on 2015. Anyways, this was not a stable version, but they actually got it into market as a next version to 1.0. Now after that, we have 2.0, which is a first stable, or I can say mostly stable version of .NET, which got released on 2005. Now when I say 2005, this was the year where your 2005 Visual Studio got introduced, which completely which is completely compatible with your 2.0 framework, right? So among these three versions, right, so till 2.0 released, we have features like you can develop console application, you can develop Windows-based application, you can develop web-based, right, you can develop web services, right, you can have class libraries, right? So these features were there till 2.0. Then after that, there was a revolution again. 3.0 got released on 2006. Right? Now this is a starting point of our latest technologies like WPF, which is Windows Presentation Foundation, or WCF, right? And the next one is 3.5, which actually got released on 2007, yes, and this is where your link and entity framework got released. Now anyway, we'll see link and entity framework and WCF and all. Don't worry about that. What exactly they are not. Now this is a version where we got link and entity framework. Now I'm actually explaining why feature with the framework. Now if you are developing something on entity framework or link, right, and if you try to use 2.0 version of framework, then your product will not be able to run. Which means, in order to make sure these things are running, you have to have at least 3.5 and above. Right? Same way, we got 4.0 on 2010, and when this 2007, you have Visual Studio 2008, where it have complete support of 3.5 and below. And 4.0 got released on 2010, right, where you got a Visual Studio 2010, which supported 4.0, and this was more stable and IDE with lot of supports. Right? And then we have 4.5 version got released on 2012, right? And for this we had a Visual Studio 2012, which is I'm going to use, which supported 4.5, and then you have 4.5.1. 5.1 version got released on 2013, right? And the latest market, till now, the latest .NET framework is 4.5.2, where it got released on 2014. I think it got released the same month, this month 5th. I think it got released on 5th of May 2014. Now 4.5.2 is the latest framework in market, and the 2013 Visual Studio or 2014 beta, and anyways even 2013 beta is there. Now this supports a complete 4.5.2 version of the .NET. Fine. So these are different frameworks we have, and the latest framework which we have is 4.5.2, which is a stable. I mean, the stable version which is in market is 4.5.1. Anyways, this is approved one by Microsoft, and your 2012 also supports 4.5.1, but we have to make some configurations. If you want to use 4.5.1 and above, better to go to 13. But there are no major upgrades as such you have. Now, whenever you have a subversion increment, right, you will have mostly fixes or few new features and all. But if there is a main version change, then you will actually would have got a major or big features. Now you don't have to worry about 4.5 and 4.5.1 and 5.2 because they'll have minor fixes and some SPs, right? But anyways, in market, this is the latest one which got released I think a month back into market, right? So we will be looking at all the features till 4.5 whatever we have. Now till these versions, I mean till today, we have all the features like WCF, link, like you have entity frameworks, we have something called what is that? The MVC, very important one. MVC, where it gives a complete support of model view controller, which is prevailing very much in market. If you are learning .NET and if you don't know WCF, at least WCF, link, entity, and MVC, right? I mean, you will not have a market. It's very important to actually at least go through all this, right? So yeah, you have many like Silverlight, you have, right? You have many other technologies, anyways, right? You have, it also supports your Windows mobile development, right? So yeah, so these are the versions which we have in .NET framework, which actually got released into market. Now you have a complete list of versions you have in your pack. Now there is one more thing which we have to understand across versions, which is very important to know. Now, normally whenever you have different versions, right? Now there won't be any difference. Take an example of Skype. Let's say you are using some Skype version, and new update came, right? It will actually give you that there is a service pack or minor release or a major upgrade of a Skype you want to upgrade. Now, which means you are upgrading from lower version to higher version, generally, right? Because your upward compatibility is much supportive than your downward compatibility, which is a backward compatibility, not downward, it's backward compatibility. Now here, even in .NET, there is no backward compatibility. If you develop any application in 4.5 and if you try to run on 2.0, that is completely impossible. You have to make many changes to actually make it work, right? Now that's the reason why in versions across .NET you have dependencies. There are many dependencies in between versions. So let me just give you that. It's very important. The 1.0 was completely standalone version, which doesn't have any dependency because it's a first version got released, right? It's a complete standalone. Till your 2.0, everything is standalone. There is no dependency on any other version as such, right? Now, when it comes to 3.0, now whenever you start installing 3.0, right? 3.0 normally installs over 2.0, which is like 2.0, it will install, and then on top of that, whatever are the extra features, it will install. Same way, the 3.5 will be installed on top of 3.0. Right? It will have all the features of 3.0 and whatever minor fixes and everything are there, it will be listed. But 4.0 is again your standalone. They actually made this standalone. You don't need any other. But don't worry, you don't have to worry about whether you have to install 2.0 first and then 3.0 or no. You don't have to worry about all these installations. If you want any version, directly install. Your .NET framework will take care of installing whatever dependencies are there right? And then it will install your whatever framework you're looking for. That is a dependency. Your installation itself will take care of. But yes, it will be better if you understand which one is a standalone and which one is a dependent, right? And when it comes to 4.5, it's a complete replacement of 4.0. You can see here, it will actually get into 4.0 and then it will replace it with 4.5, right? So that is about your frameworks. And now from 4.0, anyways, it is standalone, right? So from here on, you can see whatever version you update, it will be first 4.0 and then it will move ahead with the higher versions. So this is a complete list of complete list of versions you have, and the latest version is 4.5.2 and your latest Visual Studio is 2013. I think beta is prevailing, and and your main version of 2013 also got released to the market. Right? So for training purpose, even if you are using 2010 or 8 or above, right, that's fine, because you have whatever we are going to learn will be there. But at least try to use at least from 2010 and above. Right? So these are different versions we have. So any questions till now, guys? Fine. So yeah, so this is about the complete list of versions and things we have. Right? So now, as we have Visual Studio, right? You can actually keep your Visual Studio ready from next class, maybe, right? And go ahead with the installation. It's very simple installation. Like you can download it and start installing. Don't worry about whether you have framework or not. If you download and install your Visual Studio, right, it will take care of installing its compatible .NET versions in your machine. Don't worry about that, right? You don't have to install framework first and then go to next one, but don't worry, it will actually get into that. Right. So those are versions, and one thing you should know that whenever Microsoft started .NET development, right, so it actually didn't started with the name .NET. It actually started with the name called NGWS. It's not important, but it will be good if you know that. So this is something which is next generation Windows services. Now it actually started with this name, right? And in late 2000, they actually started .NET development. Actually started in 1990. From 1990 itself, the actual .NET product actually started development, but it actually took 10 years to release first version. And it was 2000 when it actually released .NET 1.0, which was beta into market. It took around 10 years to actually come up with .NET. Now you can see, after 2000, it got released, right? You can see 10 years it actually got, very powerful, that you can actually develop any type of, applications here. Right? So this is about framework which we have. Now let's go to the next thing here. Now, from next class, right, please keep your Visual Studio ready. If you have any questions, you can ask me. And we are going to actually learn about something called CLR. In the next class, we'll see what are different things. We'll actually see the actual process of executing program execution normally, right? How it works and what are different things which we have in CLR, right? How it actually supports to run program. Right? Now, how we are actually coming up is, let's say we don't know any programming. I'm just taking an example. Let's say we don't know any programming. Before actually starting knowing about a program, it's very important to know on what we are going to start programming. And we are actually learning that, right? And what we are going to program is something which we are learning now, right? So this is for today, which we have.